Folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. First, let me tell you about the situation with one Alabama mayor, a black mayor who said some disparaging things about black voters. I want to get your take on this, folks. This is going to be a big, big story, and I want you to hear it here on The Culture. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Also, we're going to talk about American Heart Month. During the same time of Black History Month, we check in with Dr. Jane Morgan, our cardiologist here, to give us some details on what we can do to improve our heart health. Later on, I check in with the Rio's Capitol Hill correspondent Ashley Banks to talk to us about a number of topics, one of them being the kidnappings in South Africa, how they have increased. We'll talk about that and so much more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. You ready? All right, let's go then. Folks, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, and happy Tuesday, folks. Happy Tuesday, folks. If you didn't notice, we're about 1 week away till the end of Black History Month, and I have to ask this question: where did the time go? Like, where did it go? Anyway, folks, we're continuing to do our part here at Black Star Network to celebrate the great history of our people. Of course, we know that Black history is every day, 365 days a year. So it doesn't matter. But this month is still very special, an opportunity as we continue to talk about things that Black folks are doing, contributions, the work that we continue to do, and of course, the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. So we'll continue to have those conversations. But here's this story, folks, that I want to bring to your attention that I saw. And I was like, this can't go under the rug, folks. This cannot go under the rug. And that's the story of this Alabama mayor, folks. Let me just share with you the backdrop of this story. This new Alabama mayor. Let me check in here. He's the mayor of the city of Montgomery, which is a big city, right? You would think that he would have it all together. Well, he doesn't. He doesn't. He is a black man, and he is talking some things about his election. He was in a conversation, but the Montgomery mayor said in a recent leaked audio, y'all know how that go. Y'all know how that go. Recent leaked audio, Mayor Stephen Reed. He said in a recent leaked audio that he, being Montgomery, Alabama's first black mayor, don't give us about black voters. I just want you to marinate on that. The first black mayor of the city of Montgomery in Alabama said in a leaked audio that he does not give a damn about black voters. Now, per the Montgomery Advertiser, he appears to, in this audio, he appears to swipe black voters, saying their votes don't matter, saying he don't give a damn about the Maxwell Air Force Base, and the descendants of the Confederate soldiers aren't going to invest in the city. And so let me just share with you, and I don't know, Lisa, if we can pull that, if we can get a copy of this audio. He used some expletives. Let me just say that. He did use some curse words in the midst of all of this, but I will at least show you the statement that from the call that was made about this. This is Montgomery, Alabama's mayor, Stephen Reed. And if you live in Montgomery, Alabama, you probably heard about this. Take a look at this statement. This comes from him. He said, "I can come smile. I don't effing got to do no damn work. I don't have to do no work systematically. And I'm going to be fine. And guess what? I will always get 38 to 45% of the white vote. If I get 30 to 45% of the white vote, I don't effing have to damn get the black vote. I got this past election and I'll effing win." Wow. He said, you got a black city? That's great. You can have all black everything. That's great. You can have all black everything. And guess what? You won't have green nothing if the white money thinks that you aren't looking after this. They will take this to Prattville. They will take this to Pike Road, and you won't have. Well, Mr. Mayor, wow. You think you got it all figured out. You really think you got it all figured out. Culture Crew, can we talk about this? Can we please talk about Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery, Alabama? Can we please talk about what this dude is doing? See, this is the stuff, folks. This is, and the reality is, this is the stuff that we often have to discuss, where we feel like, oh man, you know, we got to put black folks in power. But this is the very problem. You can put black people in positions of power, but do they think about the whole? Do they think about the collective? Do they think about advancement, progress? Or will they get in a seat of power and do what this man has done? And of course, he's put out a statement that came out Monday. He, in response to this, he said that I'm sorry, guys. He just said that according to his statement, he said there is an audio clip that features me speaking privately with a member of the Montgomery community. This clip has been heavily edited and features carefully selected sound bites of my voice. The conversation was recorded without my knowledge or consent by this community member almost 3 years ago. He said, during this meeting, it became abundantly clear to me that this individual sought personal financial gain during a time of crisis in our city, state, and country. You have my word that no one in my administration will ever give in to a shakedown or extortion. All right, folks, come on, crew, talk to me. I want to hear what you have to say about Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed. And if you live in Montgomery or in the area of Montgomery, Alabama, let me know. I would love to hear what the word is about this mayor. What's being discussed down there, because this is ridiculous. First and foremost, folks, how many leaked audios have we heard where we had political officials talking bad about the constituents? Too many to count. And for me, folks, it's like, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or Latino, like we saw here in Los Angeles. It's still all the same. It's still white supremacy speaking. And it's so unfortunate that it comes from the mouths and the voices of those who are the oppressed by it the most. Isn't that crazy? All right, let me go to you, crew, because I want to hear what y'all got to say of this. Chris Big, Chris, you kicking us off. Let me hear from Chris. You said they are a different breed of racists down there. What, Chris, in Montgomery? I mean, we know that's a pivotal city in the civil rights movement. We can talk about the impact, the value, the significance of that city all day when it comes to civil rights and all of those things. But racist? Yeah, that's there. But from the first black mayor? Damn. Pauline, you checked in and said, yo, I would like to hear the audio. Okay. That's fair. That's definitely fair. But I don't know how he said, I mean, it sounds pretty coherent, but we will have to, I don't know. Question is, do you really feel that way, Mr. Mayor? Now, of course, he's going to lie if he really feels that way. He's going to lie. McCole, you checked in and said, as the saying goes, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Facts. And I don't know about y'all folks, but I'm at this place where I even with black political elected officials, I'm still vetting. I'm serious. I am so sick and tired of black people getting into positions of power and think they could just crap on other black people. I am so sick and tired of that. And then yet we pay your salary, right? We hoop and holler when you come around in the community events. We want to take pictures with you because we think you are a symbol of progress. But then you, behind closed doors, you were talking bad about us. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of black folks always thinking that just because you're black, you can still treat each other. We can still treat each other like it's okay. Like, oh, okay. And see, this is my pushback, folks. And I want to hear your thoughts on this, folks. This is my pushback on the idea of capitalism and white supremacy, because at the end of the day, when we tell people, oh man, make sure you join the system, get into the system is grimy, the system is dirty, right? We all know that. But when you tell people to get in part of the system, are you telling people to get in part of the system to truly change it or become an advocate of it? Y'all hear me? You want to change the system, or are we going to become advocates of the system? Because that's what we're seeing right now. Very, very few of black folks that go into these political spaces, business spaces, you know, very few really have the testicular fortitude to change it to the point where it benefits the all, the whole, the collective, the community, the culture. All right, let me play this audio. My sister, my producer, Lise, she got it for us. Lise, you want to play this audio for us as we talk about Montgomery, Alabama Mayor Stephen Reed? Check us out, folks.
I'm going to have a full fucking conversation with the governor, or listen to the governor about master governor, because guess what? I don't know nobody who was a master governor. Except for people I have to meet as a mayor. I don't know nobody there. So if that shit is so important to y'all, is y'all better do some shit that's not going to have a full fucking conversation with the governor, or listen to the governor about master governor, because guess what? I don't know nobody who was a master governor. Except for people I have to meet as a mayor. I don't know nobody there. So if that shit is so important to y'all, is y'all better do some shit that's important to me.
Wow. So this is part 2 of Mayor Reed's rant, where he talks about the military, which is has a big presence down in Alabama. We already know they're on the coastline there. So you talking bad about the military, you talking bad about black folks. These are probably the 2 voting blocks that got your ass in office. And you crap it on them. I'm trying to make sense of this, crew. I am really trying to make sense of this. All right, let me go back to it. Lisa, let's see. Let me know if you can find the first part. We'll play that at first. Let me go back. Jay West, my man Jay West checked in. He said, you can't talk yourself out of this one. Maybe there is a way for the people of that community to do a recall. And that's the other part, right? What happens when your elected official does something like this, and then the rules don't allow you to recall that person, take them out of office, remove them from positions of power? In a lot of cities, we saw that here in LA, a lot of cities, they are not prepared. They don't have any type of rules or regulations. And Jay, I'm glad you brought this up, bro. They don't have any type of rules or regulations that if a politician does something of this extent, that it qualifies them to be automatically removed from office. They don't have that because just, of course, when they probably created the city charter, audio leaks was not considered. You think about something a little bit more egregious, right? You think about if they stole money or something more criminal, but it's not necessarily criminal to discredit people. It's not necessarily criminal to insult people, criminal in the sense of the legal sense, but it's morally and ethically wrong. And it's certainly wrong when it comes from your political leader about their constituents. So a lot of these city charters don't have any type of mandate for that. I'm seeing that. So it is interesting. if they're going to be able to do a recall, Jay. Because if they can't, can you imagine being in a place where now this, he's saying that this edited and all of that stuff. Okay, it could be, but I'm just saying in the course of now people are it's going to open the door to say, okay, do you really feel this way? And Jay, like you said, you can't talk yourself out of it. You can't be like, well, that's not my voice, or that. I mean, how much editing are you going to do to parse words together to create complete thoughts and whole sentences? Come on, man. Nobody got time for all that just to take you down. No, you took yourself down, bro. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation. I just wanted to bring you up to the speed on that situation. But when we come forward, we'll take a few more minutes to get some of your comments and so much more. Stay with us. We got a lot to talk about in today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about Montgomery, Alabama Mayor Stephen Reed, the first black mayor of the city of Montgomery, talking about a leaked audio that has come out, some leaked audio where the mayor is saying some disparaging words about black voters, basically saying he don't give a F about black voters. Even though I'm sure many black voters came out to vote his black ass in. He still don't care. Now, this is according to leaked audio. Now, the mayor has responded to this leaked audio last night when he put out a statement saying that the audio was heavily edited and that his words were taken out of context. Of course. Of course. I want to get this very quickly. I want to and Lisa, you got the first part. I want to share with you very quickly some of the things that the mayor said about black voters. And y'all tell me if it's edited. Take a listen.
I can come smile. I don't fucking have to do no goddamn work. Okay? I don't have to do no work systemically. And I'm going to be fine. And guess what? I will always get 38 to 45% of the white vote. If I get 30 to 45% of the white vote, I don't fucking have to get the white vote I got this past election. I'll fucking win. You got a black city? That's great. You can have all black everything. And guess what? You won't have green nothing. The white money thinks that you are looking after their shit. They will take their shit to Prattville. They will take their shit to Pike Road, and you won't have shit.
Tell us how you really feel, Mr. Man. So in an age where we already have a high distrust of government in this country, black, white, all folks, all citizens of this country, we already have a high distrust. In an age where black folks are fighting to be at the table, to be well represented, to have voices in spaces where we don't normally have. In an age where we're still breaking barriers, like being the first black in some space. This guy decides to use his platform to crap on black voters who probably put his ass in. Now, he said it was heavily edited. Y'all, what y'all think? Okay. My brother Damon, you said, again, you said what you said. You ain't getting away with this one. Nope, he ain't getting away. Come on, Damon. Come on, brother. Hey, Damon, check this out, brother. They're probably going to have some pastor, some preacher to stand with him as he's trying to weasel his way out of this one. Some preacher that's going to come to his defense. Come on, man. Come on. It's going to be some black preacher. Come on, man. Let's keep this thing real. See, the problem is not just about white people. We always kind of think it's just white people, but we got to deal with the other internal problem, which is when there's poor leadership. And when there's poor leadership, what will happen? When there's poor black leadership, the implications of that, sometimes that is even more damaging than poor white leadership. Because of our already dysfunctional relationship with poor white leadership, we kind of expect it. But when you put black people into office and then black people in office crap on you, that does something to your psyche as a black constituent, as a black citizen. All right, let me get a couple more guests, then we're going to have to shift gears here. But let me hear from my sister, Corinna. You say black voters in Montgomery must put an end to his ungrateful black ass. Ding bong. That's how I feel, Corinna. That's how I feel. I have no crocodile tears for you, bro. Have none. You want to crap on black people? You want to crap on grandmas and those who gone through all of the great struggle of our people and down in Montgomery through the civil rights years and all the way up to this present day, and you get in office and you were probably the hope, the expectation, the pride of black Montgomery, and guess what? This is what you do. No crocodile tears. Chris Big, you said, and that doesn't meet the impeachment requirements. The only option is getting him to resign. I mean, yeah, he's going to have to. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is going to be deep. McCole, you checked in and said, you know, that it is not about character, color. It is about character. Absolutely. It is all about character. And as a people, that's the thing that we need to focus on. As a people, we don't need to keep talking black, 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 black without talking being black and having character, without talking being black and being loyal. We're not talking to those things. So look, I'm gonna end the conversation right here. We're gonna take a quick pause. I know Brother Roland's I'm sure there's gonna be more talk about this. But I just wanted to throw that out there, crew. See what you get to see. If you're in Montgomery, there's some real issues you got it down there in the mayor's office, and something needs to be done. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears. Let's talk about heart health. We got Dr. Jane Morgan that's going to be joining us to tell us what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
It's an angry
angry pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about American Heart Month, which is actually this month during Black History Month. And it's an appropriate month to have the conversation about the state and condition of our heart health, because we find, according to a new CDC report, that even though heart disease has declined over the years, especially given what's happened with COVID, guess what, folks? Black people are still the recipients, are still the victims, rather, of bad heart health. And what we're doing, we wanted to have a conversation today is about how the CDC has their latest campaign called Live the Beat. And it's an opportunity for Black adults to learn how they can take care of themselves, learn what they can and cannot do, and most importantly, do what they do to live to see another day. But here to talk to us about the importance of heart health and American Heart Month is our very own Dr. Jane Morgan. She can be seen on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and she's lending her expertise to us today to talk about this very issue. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me as well. It's an honor.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Dr. Morgan, with the CDC, they put out this this report about the fact that Black people, unfortunately, we still suffer from high heart disease. We still have bad heart health, in spite of the other numbers that show that there is a decline of heart disease in the country. How is that possible?
There are so many factors, and it's multifactorial. And maybe we'll just start with COVID and work our way backwards. And we know COVID, certainly those first variants, the Alpha, the Beta, the Delta, that were so deadly, impacted Black America disproportionately to other populations. And we saw that also people who were living in multi-generational families and did not have access really to pharmacies also were impacted, as well as those who were on the front lines, those so-called, that term, essential workers. And so what that highlights is we know that if you're infected with COVID, that increases your risk of subsequent heart disease, not only with the risk of myocarditis, but the risk of heart disease down the road. And we actually are seeing an increase in deaths across the United States in that 25 to 45-year-old demographic across all races. And that is the demographic that also had the most COVID infections and were the most likely to have heeded less to public health measures, continued socializing, continued to congregate. And we saw those infections, although very large, the most amount of deaths were in the older population. And I think people became very cavalier and very confident that they were healthy and would survive COVID. But we can see some of these long-term effects also taking place.
So here's one of the things, and I'm glad that you pointed that out, Doc. Here's one of the things the CDC data shows. It shows that during the pandemic, the United States lost approximately 5 years of progress in reducing heart disease rates across all races and ethnicities. Black adults experience approximately 10 years of lost progress. So while the rest of the country is at a 5-year loss, we get double that at a 10-year loss. Mm-hmm. So what type of impact will that make when we're talking about making that progress? Can you give us some details as to what that progress looked like? And now that we're at a 10-year deficit, what impact will that have on it?
That goes to show you the old adage that when America sneezes, Black America gets pneumonia. And it's exactly what we are seeing here. And in fact, the life expectancy, if you can believe this, is equal now to that of Cuba. That's where we are. And so we've got to begin to dial this back and make certain that we can understand what these factors are, because it is not only COVID. COVID, I think, continue to unveil the societal construct of this country and how it negatively impacts health. But it's also how we manage our heart health. Do we understand that pregnancy is really the first stress test? And are our doctors telling women that specifically, such that if you have complications of pregnancy like preeclampsia, eclampsia, or even high blood pressure or diabetes, then you have a twofold higher increase of heart disease later in your life. And so after your baby is born, you must be referred to a cardiologist. Black women are less likely to get that information and less likely to move forward with that needed cardiac care. And we see that in multiple areas of medicine as we move forward. We've got to begin to dial this back and understand where we as physicians can also make certain that we have that impact.
Is it the fact that is it harder to talk to Black folks about heart health in this country? I mean, I would think it would be pretty much easier for us to kind of get the message, Doc. And here's why. One is that I know that a lot of Black folks understand our diets have changed. Like what we used to eat 20 years ago, we can't eat now. Whether you stop eating pork, whether you're gluten-free, whether you're vegan or vegetarian, whether you're pescatarian. Some of us are raw food, that we eat raw foods at times. We go on intermittent fasting. I mean, we're doing all of these things to try to improve our diet. We're exercising more. I see more Black men and women in the gym now. We're running. We're getting involved. We're staying, we're staying active. But it still seems like, is this one of those situations where it's more psychological that leads to, this type of impact on the body? Because it can't just be the physical body, but help us to make that connection.
So it's a number of things. And let's talk about diet. Certainly, many people have moved to be pescatarians and vegans and vegetarians, but many have not. And actually, what we see is that people tend to eat more processed foods, foods that are faster, these foods that contain trans fats. And we now know, and although this may not be well known in the public, that a diet that's high in trans fats increases your risk not only of cardiovascular disease, but of death, more so than perhaps any other risk factor. And when we talk about trans fats, we're talking about things like donuts. You've got to begin to cakes, baked goods. Are we consuming more of those fast, ready to eat, processed foods that are already packaged and available? And the answer is yes. Why? Because they're quick, they're available, our lives are busy. But also when we think about fast food, because it is accessible and it is affordable, it is expensive to eat a healthy diet. Fruits and vegetables are expensive.
Yep.
Yes, food is cheap. And so sometimes this is just a matter of practicality. How am I going to survive to tomorrow or to the next day? What foods are accessible to me such that if I eat today, I also have enough money to eat tomorrow? And that is the sad fact in America. It's the cheap, processed, highly foods that highly contain trans fat and other unhealthy byproducts are also readily available in fruits and vegetables, and fresh fish and those types of foods are expensive and not as accessible.
Talk to us also, Doc, and before we take our next pause, but give us some insight in terms of, making those visits to the doctor's office. And I know that there's this myth that Black folks, and particularly Black men, don't like to visit doctors. I don't know a lot of Black men like that, because all the brothers I'm around, they ask me if I've been to the doctor lately, So I don't know where that came from, but how important is that? Considering that we're in this place with heart health, should we just go once or twice a year? Should we kind of go on a quarterly basis?
Faraji, I like your friends, but you are in an unusual group, and it's not just
right. I know, Doc. I know.
That's a good group of friends you have there, but it's not just Black men. It's men in general. Men in general don't see the doctor. They tend to do better if they're married because their wives tend to push them more. But men in general don't see the doctor. This kind of, let's tough it out. There's nothing wrong with me. And so sometimes you see disease progress, and we pick it up a little bit later in men. What we also need to think about for women is that symptoms of heart disease can be different than those of men. It may not be this dramatic chest pain, chest pressure, loss of consciousness, dizziness. It may simply be you feel fatigued, or you feel run down, common complaint of a woman, or that you have jaw pain that actually may send you to the dentist instead of to the emergency room. And these symptoms can be subtle, and therefore by the time that they're caught, they can actually be more fatal in women. In fact, the first heart attack of a woman is actually more fatal than that of a man. And we think that these symptoms are subtle. And of course, we see this even more so in Black women. And so we've got to be able to deal with what happens in pregnancy, What happens during menopause? We know that Black women suffer more menopausal symptoms, and it also increases your risk of heart disease as that estrogen level decreases. Are you having discussions with your physician about hormone replacement therapy in menopause? White women are having those conversations. Are Black women having those conversations for cardio protection, but also for protection against cancer? This is all information. People on social media need to follow people for medical information who've got medical and scientific backgrounds, as opposed to following whatever. You're following someone for their rock formations or their cooking shows, but then expecting to get medical information there as well. Make certain that you understand what you need for your health and to move forward, because cardiology is all encompassing, including the teeth. Keeping your teeth clean increases your risk of heart disease. If you have gingivitis, your risk of heart disease is greatly increased. And you would know if you have gingivitis, your gums maybe bleed, maybe you have bad breath, maybe you have a loose tooth, maybe you have swollen gums. If you have gingivitis, absolutely see your dentist, and then make certain that you have a dental appointment that you're maintaining twice a year for maintenance, because all of the bacteria from gingivitis gets into your blood and can seed those valves of your heart. And you could end up having heart surgery just because you're not taking care of your teeth. This is information that Black people need to have.
No doubt, no doubt. Dr. Morgan, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, folks, we're going to continue the conversation. I want to get some feedback from you, crew. So make sure you get ready to post your questions, your thoughts. Join us in the chat right there on YouTube, Facebook, and as we're streaming on Black Star Network, as well as on Amazon News. Stay with us. More conversation about heart health in Black America here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We've been talking about heart health in Black America. We're checking in with cardiologist Dr. Jane Morgan to give us some insight about how we can do our part to keep our hearts healthy. Now, Dr. Morgan, you drop in some jewels. First and foremost, I never knew that gingivitis can lead to a bad heart and heart problems. So that is mind-blowing in and of itself. So now you're talking about not just going to the doctors, you're talking about going to the dentist to get that checked out, because of course, understandably, the body is interconnected. Everything is connected to everything else. So it's a whole system. A couple of questions that folks are posting. One is there a way to reverse heart disease if you change your habits?
There is data that shows that you can have regression of these plaques in your arteries, these plaques that build up from high cholesterol and high fat over time that can block the artery, blocks blood flow, which means it blocks oxygen. That's how you have a heart attack. And that can be regressed by, number one, let's talk about diabetes. If you have diabetes that is poorly controlled, if you can start to really get on top of that and control your diabetes, which is an incredible risk factor for heart disease, that starts to be a really positive step in that direction. Losing weight is another one, especially if you are morbidly obese. And also think about what that diet and exercise, very, very, very important. If we can exercise, very, very difficult. We understand in these busy, crazy, upside down lives that we have. But if you can figure out how you can carve out some time to do something that you think you can do or that you want to do, and then make an effort to do that on a consistent basis. This is what we talk about at the CDC with Live the Beat. Find something that speaks to you, not a fad or something that's popular or something that your friend wants to do, something that speaks to you, and then do it. Just take one small step. You don't have to bite the entire apple. Just take a small step and then just be consistent with that small step over time before you take another step.
Doc, let's talk a little bit, and I appreciate that because that gives me some hope, and I think that gives a lot of folks some hope, saying that we can become more proactive in dealing with this issue. Now, let's talk about some of those factors that we can't control, such as stress,
Right.
or we're talking about the impact of systemic racism. How much do those factors, those things that are outside of our control, how much do they really play on our heart health?
Incredibly. In fact, Black women have on average a life expectancy, and I'm talking about myself, have a life expectancy 3 years less than the rest of the population, really predicated on ongoing, pervasive, systemic stress that you face not only at home, but also in work and trying to manage work life and negotiate and navigate environments and compete for promotions and what that means. And that ongoing, pervasive, never ending stress of managing and dealing with those environments, we know has impacted cardiovascular health. And we see that as well when we look at studies now, that the group that is more reticent to return to the office as we come hopefully to the tail end of COVID. I'm going to just take an aside and knock on wood as I watch the numbers unfortunately begin to plateau, meaning level off. They have been dropping consistently. They're plateauing, so I'm keeping an eye on it. But let's just say, knock on wood, we're headed to the tail end of COVID. It is Black women who are more reticent to return to the office. It's been more comfortable to be at home. And I mean, not because you're in your pajamas and you're in Nike house shoes. I mean, because you haven't had to deal with the constant microaggressions that occur at work that you're managing and navigating and negotiating every single day. Black women have found it less stressful, maybe less Black, to be at home than to be in the office. And so absolutely we see that.
So do we push back against that, Dr. Morgan? Do we, I mean, and I'm saying in the spaces that we exist, right? Whether it's outside of the home, work, in the church or in our faith institutions, like any space that we find ourselves in, do we push for what? Because there's always this, the conversations like this can go a couple of different ways. One way is that, oh, well, the government and political officials need to do A, B, and C. And then you say, oh, well, the people just don't care about their health. I mean, we are hit, and I know you know this, but just to state it, that we're hit with so many different things in the course of a day, in the course of a week, right? And just in terms of our lives, that it's becoming more and harder to try to figure out, okay, let me take time for myself. Let me make sure I'm eating the right way. Let me do things like that. And it sounds crazy, but that's just the way life has become. That's the culture of how we're living right now. So I'm wondering, like, how do we break out of that vicious cycle?
How do we break out of it? I'll give you a great example because I'm a part of this vicious cycle. My son is a national correspondent for CNN. And 2 or 3 years ago, during the George Floyd protests, he was arrested on national television while I was watching. His name is
Omar. That was your son?
Omar Jimenez. Yes, is my son.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. He used to work in Baltimore.
Absolutely. Yes, it was at WBAL TV.
Yes. I saw that. Okay.
So imagine I'm his mother. We don't have to imagine it because I am his mother. But imagine all the Black mothers in the world. And this is the thing that we fear, that you live with constantly. And he is arrested. I'm watching him on live television, ask why he's being arrested. He's being handcuffed, and then he's led off the screen. And I don't know what has happened to him. So I won't go through everything that happened in the course of that day with myself and my family. But here's what I will say after that incredibly traumatic situation that I was managing as a Black mother. The very next day, I'm at work and still giving presentations, and no one's asking me how I'm doing, whether I'm falling apart. I'm expected to perform. It's of no consequence to the work environment. And that is the situation that we find ourselves in all of the time, regardless of the crises that we are constantly navigating. At work, we still have to move forward as if we are not in a crisis. No other culture has to do that. And that's what we have to manage. And I give myself as an example because I am guilty of that. That's what happened to me. And the very next day, it was work as usual as far as my peers were concerned. Although that's not what was happening really in my life and what was really happening mentally and emotionally with me at that time.
Dr. Morgan, I can only, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to respond the way I did because I could only imagine how traumatic that could have been. It was traumatic to watch. It was like, what is happening?
Exactly.
So I could only imagine in well, I guess my bigger question is, would you say that you were able to kind of recover from that moment, from the trauma of that moment, or is that something that you're still like a work in progress? I mean, I know that you gained something and learned something about yourself, and your family has learned something about that, coming out of that moment. Could you share that with us?
Sure. I gained something, but I lost something as well. And I would say that is something you never recover from. And the thing that Omar said to me after he was finally released, and he gave me a phone call, because if you can imagine, I had called CNN and I had made a lot of phone calls to as many influential friends as I could. I didn't know if I needed to go out there, because what is on my mind? What is on my mind is my son going to survive this?
Right. Yep.
And it's not a matter of getting to the prison. Can he survive police transportation to even make it to jail? That's the issue. When you go into that black zone, that black hole of the arrest that every Black mother understands, can you even make it to the prison? That's the situation. So no, you are forever changed. And after Omar talked with me, I saw him back on the air, and someone asked him, you talk with your mother, what did she say? And I don't even remember saying this, but he said, I said to him, I thought I was going to be another Black mother with a statistic of her son being brutalized in police custody. He said, that's what I said to him. So, this is the reality of what we live in every single day. That's just background. That's just how our day starts, with all of these things that we have to manage in navigating what it means to be an African American, right? You are African without a culture and American without a country. And so we have to manage this every single day.
I want us to marinate on that one, Dr. Morgan. You are African without a culture and American without a country. Wow. We got a few moments left. When that's gonna be the thought of the day, Doc. I have to say that. That's gonna be the thought of the day for me. We got a couple of moments left. What do we do now that we know about the seriousness of heart health in America and Black America? We know that these things exist. What are some of the things that we do moving forward? I know the CDC had
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do? How do we get into a better space? And I would love, we can keep talking about these things, and I would love to have you back on and you can kind of give updates. So it's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, seriously, like what people can walk away, what little nugget of empowerment can you share for our listeners and watchers?
Okay, little nuggets. Take care of your teeth. That's something people don't generally think about. Try to do one thing, just one thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Pick one thing that is healthy for your heart that you can do. Maybe you will, and I'm being very simple, just walk to the mailbox every day. That's where you start. Maybe you're going to incorporate more vegetables on your plate so that maybe your meat is not the main course, but it becomes a guest and your vegetables are the main course. Start with something that then you can continue to work on that one thing. Don't pick 10 things. It's too overwhelming. Just pick one thing and then work on that one thing. It's really, really, really easy to develop bad habits. It is really, really hard to break them and develop good habits. So just pick one thing, give yourself some time, and work on that one thing over time.
Yeah, it is right there. And Dr. Jane Morgan, I appreciate your expertise and your insight, and most importantly, just on a human level, I commend you for the strength and for you to share your personal testimony. That's a very, very, that speaks volumes about who you are and how far you've come from that moment. So you are always welcome. We would love to continue the conversation about heart health and so much more of that you bring to the table. But I will say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me anytime.
Absolutely. Dr. Jane Morgan, our cardiologist here at the Black Star Network. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we check in with the Grio's Capitol Hill correspondent, Ashley Banks, to talk about some other newsworthy topics. Stay with us. It's all happening in the next hour of The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the second hour of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Great conversation that we had with Dr. Jane Morgan, cardiologist. Got me thinking a lot. But folks, these are the conversations that we are having. And that's why it's important for you to continue to support us here at Black Star Network. Just wanted to take a moment to just let you know that your support means everything to us. So make sure you do your due diligence and go to blackstarnetwork.com, where you can continue to support us financially, share the content, let folks know that we are rocking and rolling here in this digital space. But most importantly, that we need you to support us, folks. Make sure you download the app, Black Star Network, on all of your devices. And also follow us on our social media at Black Star Network on IG and Twitter. And you can follow me, yours truly, Faraji Muhammad, on Instagram at The Real Faraji, as well as on Twitter at Faraji. And we would love to connect with you. All right, folks, we want to switch gears. We wanted to have a chat with the Grio's Capitol Hill correspondent, Ashley Banks, to talk to us about a couple of stories that have that you may not have heard of. The first one is this situation coming out of South Africa, there is a very, very major concern about the number of kidnappings that are happening. And we're looking at this situation and keeping our eyes on it. So we wanted to bring Ashley into let's bring Ashley into the frame. Ashley, first and foremost, good afternoon. How you feeling?
Good afternoon. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Faraji?
I'm all right. Let's look at what's happening with these. You did a report around South Africa kidnappings for ransom increase at an alarming rate. First and foremost, why is this story, popping up on this side of the waters? Why is it significant for us to talk about it from your vantage point?
Yeah, as you know, Faraji, Black Americans, when we travel, a lot of us like to travel to places where we can see people that look like ourselves.
Right.
South Africa is a very popular destination for Black Americans. And so this story caught my attention a couple months back because I wanted to bring awareness to what's going on. I want Black Americans to know essentially what they could be getting themselves into when they travel. You and I, Faraji, have spoken. I love traveling the world as a solo traveler.
So, and I tell you all the time, Ashley, just stop doing that.
I love it. It's one of the best feelings in the world. And so if I can help someone else who wants to travel and who wants to get out there, then as a journalist, that's what I'm going to do. And so I saw that the kidnappings for ransom in South Africa in 2022 literally doubled the rate they were in 2021, which is completely insane. And so I was able to catch up with an activist in South Africa who basically just spoke to the issues and the types of people that are being kidnapped for ransom. Obviously, some of the people living in South Africa who are South Africans are dealing with this crisis, but also foreigners, people traveling like you and I, Faraji, could be dealing with the crisis, or people who are expats, foreigners who are now living in the country for one reason or another. And so the activist was letting me know that he knows the police force in South Africa right now has created a task force to combat this issue. But the reason why we may be seeing an uptick in these numbers is because people are not speaking. People are not sharing the information with officers if they know who is doing these kidnappings. Or, if a family member of theirs was kidnapped, they're not going to law enforcement to communicate this information. And the activist Yusuf, he told me that he believes people are afraid. They believe they are afraid that the gangs who are engaging in these kidnappings could retaliate against them. So for these families who, let's say, happen to pay the ransom in order to get their family members back, they believe, hey, I paid the ransom already. What's the point of me going to the cops? And there's a chance that I could see more danger, more harm to my family. So if I can avoid that, then I'm not going to go to the cops. But Yusuf is saying that this is a major issue because the communities in which these are happening, people know who these players are. They know who these gang members are that are participating in these activities. But because law enforcement is not being informed, it's a bit harder to crack down on this issue.
It is a bit harder. And I'm glad that you kind of shared that with us because I wanted our watchers to understand the implications of this, right? Because it's getting warmer. It is getting around the travel season. And like you said, a lot of us like to go to tropical places, but we sometimes travel to these places. And I see a lot of Black women in particular, not throwing no shade on y'all, but I see a lot of Black women wanting to go to the most far out, most exotic spaces, right? Because it's beautiful. The weather is great. I mean, I understand, but we do have to understand the culture of those places that we go to, whether you're talking about Tulum, Mexico, or you're talking about South Africa, right? Like the culture, and more importantly, the relationship that the United States of America has with some of these places. And even though these are U.S. territories, these are poor U.S. territories. And so I've heard so many stories actually of tourists, and not just Black women, just, tourists in general, who go to these exotic places, these beautiful places, and they think that, hey, I'm here. They're going to treat me like a queen. They're going to treat me like a king. and they get violated. They become victims of everything from robbery to sexual abuse and violence. I mean, it just runs the gamut. So should there be some real conversation about understanding the cultures, the spaces that you go to? Like, should we take some real time to kind of like educate ourselves about what's happening in those places before we just jump on a plane and go?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just going to say, when I pick a place to travel, I first go to the State Department website, and they have travel advisories letting you know what level of risk you should take when you're traveling to a country. And so right now, South Africa is under level 2, and it's for some of the reasons I stated: the kidnappings, robberies are out of control, assaults can be out of control. For Roger, we know, for instance, the U.S. is not the safest place either for people to be. I just want to put that out there.
Right.
But for the most part, those of us who are living in, we'll say, urban communities, like I'm living in Baltimore City, I work in Washington, D.C., I kind of know my surroundings. It's a little different than going to a foreign country where you may not speak the language and you definitely don't really know the culture. So it's very important that people do their research before they go somewhere. Like you stated before, there are so many beautiful places, so many exotic places that men and women love to travel to, but not every place is the place for you. I have known friends and family who travel places and they do get robbed. I've read stories of people actually being kidnapped in different places and living to tell their story. You really do have to be cognizant of where you're going. You have to be cognizant of what's going on with the government. There are so many rules that you have to abide by. Some places, for instance, at some point, I don't know if Egypt is still this way, but traveling to Egypt, you couldn't film things. You couldn't take out your camera and fear that people were journalists and would be recording information and criticizing the government. But you have to be careful of where you're going. You have to know the background. You have to understand the culture. Even coming down to where you were staying in your hotel, you need to know where it's located. You can't just pick any resort. You have to read the reviews. You have to search around to see if there have been any problems with certain resorts. Because I will tell you, I have read too many stories in different places where people stay. They'll pick a resort, they'll stay somewhere, but it's a resort known for drug trafficking, for human trafficking, for robberies to take place.
And actually, they don't tell you that hotel is known for that on Travelocity.
Of course not. Definitely not. You're not going to tell you
that. And that's the other part too, right? Because there isn't an opportunity for you to quote unquote visit the hotel before you actually book your stay there. You have to take face value, i.e. the internet, to give you this shimmery, glamorous picture. Oh my gosh, look! And then you get there and you realize that it's in a not too safe part of town. And so I love that measure that you say you take, which is to check with the State Department. I mean, I don't know where folks stand on the politics of everything, but I know one thing: like, you go to certain agencies' websites, you're going to find the news and information that you need to find. I mean, they're going to post it right there. Like, this is not a good place for you to visit right now. They're going to tell you. We just got to access it and read it.
Right.
But they're certainly going to tell you. So I think that's an excellent suggestion here.
I want to jump in as well. Sure. And as a journalist, I go further, obviously, than the State Department. I try to find the best local news sites that aren't run by these countries' governments, but I try to find the real information and to see the crime rate, to see what actually is taking place from day to day in these places. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm someone who loves to travel to North Africa and the Middle East, which are not the safest countries in the world right now. And so I have to do so much research to make sure I'm going to a place that is stable enough for me to be able to stay for about a week or two, make sure I'm safe and I can come back home to my family and friends. And so I have to really dig deep to make sure that I'm not putting myself in harm's way. But there's plenty of information out there if you're looking for it, to make sure that you're going to a place that's safe for you. But the issue is so many people have their heart's desires. they have these bucket lists, they see people taking these cool pictures, posting them on social media, posting these videos on TikTok, and they feel like they're going to have that same experience. Or they're seeing these things on social media, not understanding that those people who posted it might have had bad experiences, but they're not sharing those bad experiences. People are seeing the glamour, they're just seeing the positive and thinking they're going to have that same experience, when in reality, you just may not. Everyone's experience is different.
Absolutely. Folks, I want you to join us in the conversation as we talk to the Grio's Capitol Hill correspondent, Ashley Banks, to get us your take on this story about the increase of South African kidnappings, these kidnappings for ransoms that we're seeing more and more of. And folks, post your comments in the chat as we are streaming live on YouTube, of course, Facebook, and on Black Star Network, as well as Amazon News. But here's the thing, Ashley, what is the local government saying? And then we got to take a quick break, because I also want to kind of get your take as to what the Biden-Harris administration is doing to address this problem. But what is the local government in South Africa is doing in some of these countries?
Yeah, so in South Africa right now, the police department held a press conference a month or so ago, basically stating that they've created a task force to tackle kidnappings. They are urging the community to come forward with any information to help them crack down on what's taking place. But the police force is saying this is their main priority. We need to stop this, obviously, because if you're hearing about an increase in kidnappings around the world, in South Africa, if people around the world are getting this information, they're not going to help. Tourism is a big thing in a lot of countries, and it's going to hurt their bottom line if people are not traveling to South Africa. So the police department is doing all that it can, or at least it's saying it's doing all that it can to crack down on these kidnappings.
Absolutely. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue our conversation with Ashley Banks. We're going to continue our conversation with you as we talk about this issue. Again, folks, I would love to hear what you got to say. So post your comments, and we'll try to get to as many of your thoughts as possible. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back. We have been talking about this recent rash of South African kidnappings for ransom situations that have been happening in the southern part of the continent. And we've been checking in with the Grio's Capitol Hill correspondent, Ashley Banks, to kind of give us some details around, what's happening and, more importantly, what is going to be done to address this issue. And folks, I would love to hear what you got to say. So, crew, post your comments in the chat. But Ashley, going back to the part that you said that the police departments in South Africa, they say that these kidnapping for ransoms issues, this is a priority for those police departments. Have they made any arrests? Have they made any dent in figuring out who's responsible? Is it just random individuals, or is this a larger plot from, certain groups in South Africa. What has the police shared so far?
Yeah, so the police has informed the public that this is essentially gang activity. These are gangs who are highly intelligent. They have people that have certain roles, people who are scoping out those who have money, those who actually do the kidnapping, to those who carry out the violence, to those who are getting the money, the ransom money, and communicating with the families of the victims that they've abducted. And so there's this whole operation when it comes to these gangs who are doing these kidnaps for ransom. And then you have the copycat gangs that see what's taking place, but they're not asking for as much money, and they're not as sophisticated as the gangs who are doing most of these kidnappings for ransom and asking for all of this money from families. And so at this point, it's unknown how many people officers have actually arrested, but they are aware that these aren't just random situations. These are literally operations that are taking place, well thought out operations at the hands of gang members.
So one of the things that you mentioned in your piece about this is that the Biden-Harris administration, they met with the South African president to talk about just a host of things. And he's actually, you shared this in your piece, that he's actually been implicated in this kidnapping for ransom situations. He's allegedly involved in some of these kidnappings. Give us the latest around that.
Yeah. So the South African president did meet with President Joe Biden last year. Didn't really speak too much on these accusations of kidnapping and the bribery scandal that he's under. A lot of South Africans are calling for his resignation. And so at this time, the Biden administration is kind of just not getting involved. I'm sure you're aware, but Biden is looking to go to Africa towards the end of this year to help strengthen ties between the U.S. and Africa. But South Africa is not on the list. The president's being really quiet about it just because there's not a lot known surrounding what's going on with the South African president. And so President Biden doesn't want to speak on it. And so it sounds like the South African president, though, is in a lot of hot water. And I've read quite a few reports on this kidnapping and bribery scandal that's going on there. But it just sounds like his administration is riddled with corruption. So the more I learn, the more I will tell you. But at this moment, there isn't much to go on.
Riddled with corruption. Wow. I guess this just speaks volumes about where we see public officials, especially in other countries. And it's interesting, of course, that, you guys had reported, and like so many other news outlets did, the fact that the president had called African leaders to come together, to come to Washington late last year in December and talk to them about a host of things. But how important is human rights? Was that, as far as you know, was human rights and civil rights and protection of women, were these some of the big things that were talked about? Because unfortunately, we still find that in a lot of these African countries, that there are some egregious violations that are happening, like we're seeing in other parts of the world. But I'm wondering if we're going to see any turning of the tide coming this year and moving forward with some of these human rights violations.
I think that's a great question for Raji. So the top priority during the U.S.-Africa summit was about economic growth. That's the basic thing that was promoted. Civil rights, not too much on that. Protection of women, I do not recall hearing anything about that. They could have discussed it during their closed meetings with the presidents from the several African nations, but from the events that I attended, pushing economic growth was the top priority, not just for the older generations right now in Africa and the African nations, but the younger generations as well, through job growth, through STEM, right? Science, engineering, all that good jazz. But when it comes to the civil rights, when it comes to kidnappings, because kidnappings for ransom are not just happening in South Africa. Kidnappings are happening all around Africa, several nations on the continent. And so I do not remember any of that being spoken about during the U.S.-Africa summit.
Right. Damn. That is absolutely insane to me. All right, Ashley, let's shift gears a little bit. And I wanted to kind of get your take on a cultural situation that we're seeing. Let me just share this for you folks. This is very, very interesting to say the least. And Ashley, of course, getting your take on it. So the situation is now we're looking at what's happening with BAFTA. Now, BAFTA it had their awards ceremony just the other day, and this is like the British versions of the what can we say? It's a British version of what we saw with SAG-AFTRA and other unions and like not the People's Choice Awards, the Golden Globes rather. The British version of the Golden Globes, where they highlight, actors and actresses and works that are doing some great things. So they had this whole ceremony, and they had a young lady by the name of Miss DeBose, who is the sister that played in the story West Side Story, Ariana DeBose. She did this piece. And Lisa, I'm gonna ask you to pull it up so that our audience can really see it, because I want to get your take on this, Ashley. But she did a performance where she did a little singing and then she did a little rapping. And in her rap, she wanted to pay homage to all of the women in Hollywood that have been pushing the conversation in so many different ways. So she shouted out, Jamie Lee Curtis. She shouted out Angela Bassett and Viola Davis. Now, this is a Black woman, made up her own original rap. And when she got on stage, people said that her performance was, quote unquote, cringy. Cringy. Because she did not execute the performance. It did not sound so well. So much so that she was getting so much backlash on Twitter and other social media spaces, but predominantly Twitter, that she ended up deleting her Twitter account. Now, this is a young Black woman who was essentially bullied on social media and felt like the best way to handle all of the criticism about her performance, even though BAFTA, they put out a statement saying that they were in full support of Ariana DeBose's performance. They didn't think that it was bad. They said that, she came up with this idea and her team put together this musical piece. And more importantly, they wanted to create a very lighthearted award ceremony. And so they don't have any criticism about it. But the backlash, forcing her to delete Twitter, causing her to feel some sort of shame, is absolutely crazy, Ashley. And I want to kind of get your take on this, because this is, like I said, it's a Black woman. She's being shamed for a performance. She gets off of Twitter. But then there's also, of course, the race element as well, because she's in a space that predominantly traditionally has not always appreciated the contributions of Black women. Now, I'm talking about Britain. So let's talk about this bullying piece at first. What do you take from this when we see this type of cultural demonstration forcing people to kind of like go back into a space and all of that? Let me get this. Before I get your response, I want to play this clip that we got of the performance. This is Ariana DeBose as she performs her piece, paying homage to sisters in Hollywood. Take a look.
In the room, supporting and leading, all here I presume. Hong Chow, Dolly D, Carrie and Carrie with the C. Dame Emma, I'm so fond. Anna girl, you were great and blonde. Danielle D, you broke my heart. Michelle, I've loved you from the start. Angela Bassett did the thing. Viola Davis, my woman king. Blanche Kate, you're a genius. And Jamie Lee, you are all of us. Upper lady.
Okay, Ashley. What What do you make of this situation?
Well, it's really sad first that rap portion is the only thing from her performance that made the rounds on social media. There was another portion where she was singing and all that stuff. But just from an artistic point of view, you can see that she was out of breath. She probably was nervous. And of course, it wasn't executed the best. And so for people saying that it's cringy, okay, I can see that.
You can agree with that?
I can see that. But I'm someone who can look past the performance and see the message. And I thought it was cute. I thought what she was trying to do was cute. It was original. What I was reading was that she had a short period of time to put this together. And I think it should be appreciated. You know, she's calling out these wonderful women in Hollywood and the things that they've done. I think it was decent. I really do. When you look past the cringe, when you look past, you know, the fact that the performance wasn't perfect. Okay, she's human. It may not be perfect. That's okay. She tried. But
you said, wait a minute, hold on, Ashley. You said when you look past the cringe, when you look past this, when you look.
But what I'm saying is, I appreciate her efforts.
Okay, I got you.
I appreciate her efforts. I understand why some people are critiquing it, and they can critique whatever.
Yeah.
But I think people are critiquing it for the wrong reason. So as you stated, this is a British award show. And so the producer who allowed this whole thing to go down was stating that people are used to the traditional British performance. And so they're very stiff. They did not expect something like this. And as someone who lived in England for at least 5 months, it's true. They tend to be, not all of them, but there is a racist atmosphere being in Britain. I don't know if I told you this, but when I lived in Britain, I was called the N-word to my face for the first time in my life.
Wow.
I was shocked, but shouldn't have been, knowing the history of the UK. And but anyway, for people to come out and critique her and the way that they are, it's just like, did you not hear the content? Did you not hear what is actually happening? Her purpose for reciting this song and reciting this rap was just, like you said, to pay homage to these women in Hollywood. And if you didn't like it, move along. You don't have to comment. You don't have to bully her online. She is a person with feelings, and this is her original work. You don't like it, move along. It's really not that hard to do.
So, I don't know. And I mean, like, and I think this is why we probably should have this conversation, because of, one, the racial undertones, two, the fact that she is a woman, right? And then three, is this a sign? And this is something that BAFTA kept kind of saying, that they wanted to have, they allowed this to happen because they wanted to push back against the whole Oscar so white campaign, that they want to say, no, here at BAFTA, we're not so white, we're diverse, we're inclusive of other people. And I don't know if that is a message that failed to be relayed or communicated with this piece. Now, I don't think it's the worst performance. I've seen, y'all know, I have a problem with Gerard Carmichael's performance at the other award show. I thought that was terrible. So this is nothing compared to what he said and what he did. But I do think that we are in an interesting space in our culture that we can just crap on people who try to do things out of a space of love, support, and we're like, oh, they didn't execute it correctly, therefore she's trash. And then force her to leave social media. It's like, it's something very disturbing about this. This is not what I think that the culture should be doing. We shouldn't be going into a direction where we think it's cool and that to bully somebody about who they are and how they express themselves. But when it happens to children, when we have these mass shootings in schools and we're like, oh my God, it's a terrible thing. How did this ever happen? It happened from adults. I mean, how does any of this stuff happens? This stuff, if adult act this way, it's going to trickle down to the children. So I push back on the whole bullying thing. You're not going to bully me out of a situation just because you don't like what I say or what I do. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to tune in. It's just that simple. I'm in agreement with you, Ashley. And I think it's really, really sad that we're still in this space right now. So we got to take a quick pause. When I come forward, I want to get your take on that, folks. I want to hear from you as well around this issue of bullying on social media, the impact of that, and let's talk about the racial undertones of that performance. Folks, stay with us. We still got a lot to get to in the final few moments of the culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about the Twitter backlash of Ariana DeBose. This is the woman, the black woman, who was featured in Steven Spielberg's film West Side Story. She played the title character of Anita. She actually was nominated for an Oscar for her role in that movie. But she is a musical theater actress. And at this year's BAFTA Awards in Britain, she performed an original piece that she did a combinations of We Are Family and Sisters standing together. And in that piece, she kind of created this original rap that was like Vogue inspired. Y'all remember the Madonna song Vogue? That was like Vogue inspired. Well, it didn't go over well. People thought that her performance was cringy. They saw she was out of breath, and it just did not end up well. So much so that it forced the actress to deactivate her Twitter account and to kind of go quiet as the backlash continues to simmer. We've been talking to the Grio's Capitol Hill correspondent, Ashley Banks, getting her take on this. And folks, we would love to hear what you got to say as well. So post your comments in the chat. I'm trying to see, is there a need for us to have a bigger concern here, Ashley, around the issue of online social media bullying, or there's need for us to have a bigger conversation about race? Especially when you're talking about a sister like an Ariana DeBose, she actually got an award from Britain. And so I'm trying to just figure out, like, how do we have a conversation to make sure that culturally there is still a space for Black women to express themselves outside of the construct of the industry, that they can express themselves in an original fashion. Do you think that this is problematic, or is it just another Hollywood actress who's pissed off because no one, folks didn't love what she did?
I think the issue for me is that you mentioned earlier, BAFTA was looking for ways to be more inclusive. They didn't want to be like Oscars so white. But I want to know who was on the board to decide that this was the avenue to take. Not saying there's anything wrong with her performance, but if we want to be more inclusive, I feel like there are other ways that they could have been more inclusive. When it comes to women of color, to me, it's kind of stereotypical to have a Black person rap. It's like, is that the?
So should we be mad about that? I mean, from a cultural standpoint,
we have to be mad about it. I'm just saying, I think it should be a conversation. Is there something that we could have come up with that would have made more sense, or that could have been? And I'm not saying we need to be more appealing to white Brits. What I'm saying is there needs to be a conversation centered around, was that the only thing that we could come up with, was to have Miss DeBose rap to make sure that the awards was more inclusive. And then
suppose she came up with that though. Suppose she said, maybe BAFTA didn't say, hey, you need, would you like to rap because you're Black? Not to say that they would do that, but I mean, I don't know. But maybe she was like, hey guys, I got an idea. I want to do this piece that I wrote to honor the sisters, the sisterhood of Hollywood, and it's not just about Black women, it's about all these women that have been doing great things. Maybe she came up with this on her own and they were like, okay. I mean, rap is still a very popular music genre. So it's understandable that especially when I hear Hollywood or any type of Hollywood rooted agency talk about diversity, I'm thinking Black.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So they probably thinking, okay, you have this Black woman, she can actually hold a note. My sister Suzette Speaks checked in. Suzette, we're going to talk to you tomorrow, but you said the thing is Ariana DeBose can really sing. So they're thinking this thing is about to be slamming. It's going to be fun. It's going to be lighthearted. This is a Black woman. She wrote this piece. Let's put it together. Let's see how it works.
She's a singer, Faraji, not a rapper. And it's like, she's a singer.
Maybe she should have got Cardi B or Megan.
Possibly. But I feel like she could have stayed her lane. First, once again, I think the message was great.
Right.
Execution, I can see it being cringy. But I would have loved for the entire performance to have gone viral instead of just her rap portion, because the rap portion did stand out and it didn't look as great as I'm sure she thought it would have been executed. But what I would like to know is if there were people of color on the board who were making these decisions when it came to making sure this award show was inclusive. And now, yes, it could have been DeBose's idea to have this rap, but there are still checks and balances. There are still people that should be on the board saying, okay, let's weigh the ideas. This can't be the only idea. This is not the only way to make sure it's inclusive for people of color. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing for our audience and for the communities of color.
Let me ask you a question. All right, speaking of color, and I want to ask my producer Lisa, if you can find this picture, find the picture of Angela Bassett and Viola Davis embracing one another at BAFTA. It's a very famous. You should be able to find it because it's a dope picture that I want to share with you. Because everybody's now looking at this picture, actually reciting the lyrics of Ariana DeBose's song. But I want to get back to this point very quickly. Do you think that what we saw from, like I said, Gerard Carmichael's performance when he did the Golden Globes and now this performance, is it going to put the conversation about Black folks hosting award shows, Black folks being at the table for award shows, do these performances put that conversation in jeopardy?
I don't think so. When it comes to DeBose or even Carmichael, there are a lot of people that are on their side. Although there are people that are criticizing them, there are still people who understand what they were trying to do. Even if you may not agree, some people understand what they were trying to execute. And as we know, Black people are some of the best entertainers in this world. So when it comes to, I didn't want to say it, but yes, the best. And so
you know how to entertain now. We definitely know how to entertain.
We know how to do that. So when it comes to hosting these award shows, these people on these boards know that it's best to have us. Who are they going to have, hosting these shows? They know that in order to get Black people to watch their shows, they have to have us represented. That's the only way we're going to tune into these shows now, because we have those hashtags, Oscars so white, different shows that we know are not picking Black nominations for these different awards. So a lot of us aren't tuning in. It's like, what's the point? So in order to, they're smart. The boards on these award shows are smart. And they know the only way to attract us is to have Black people hosting. So they're not going to not have Black people hosting shows in the future. But when it comes to DeBose, I'm just really unhappy with the bullying that she has been facing. It reminds me a lot of what happened to Leslie Jones when she did Ghostbusters, and how people in this country were just so racist and just talking about her looks and just tweeting the most asinine things about her, to the point where she felt the need, in order to protect her mental health, was to deactivate her Twitter account. And it's just so unfortunate. We all do not perform in the same way as everyone else. We do not all look the same. We all have a different perspective of how things should go or whatever, but it's not fair for someone to be attacked because of their looks, or even to be attacked because their execution may not have been perfect. It's the message that matters in this case. It shouldn't matter about her execution. And so it's just unfortunate that she did deactivate her account. It's not said that she deactivated her account because of the backlash she was getting. I believe we can infer that's
yeah, but no, some reports are saying that though, Ashley. They're saying because she just got so much hate.
Yeah. It's not fair.
And I get it. People, I don't know if anybody in our crew has experienced something like this, right? But could you imagine you did something, like if I did something on this platform and said something really, really outlandish, or did something, or treated a guest a certain way, and next thing you know, you're the talker, your name goes viral for the wrong reason. And I mean, thousands of people. I remember during the Freddie Gray moment in Baltimore, I did I did an interview with CNN, and that went viral, right? But it was for the good reason, but it just went viral. And even that day, I remember my phone just kept bouncing, like, and I was like, I had to turn it off. I went to the movies that day. I called out. I called out of work because it was just so much. So I can only imagine, and that was for a good reason. That was for people like, oh my gosh, I saw your interview. That was awesome. Yeah. I can only imagine for it being not a good reason. Here you are, an award-winning actress. You've been doing this for years, and then people are calling your performance cringy. And then they get, not only are they just talking about your performance, they might even get into the space of, you are Black, and it's like, ooh, that is hard to to swallow. That's a very, very hard, and it's just a very hard pill to swallow to deal with that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, my heart goes out to her. And Lisa, I don't know if we can grab the pictures. I think it's a dope picture. There's this viral moment of Viola Davis and Angela Bassett look like they're sharing a moment and they're embracing her. But if you can't find it, it's fine. But folks, I'm saying it's beautiful. It's a beautiful picture. But more importantly, we have to make sure that as the culture, we support Black women. There is our Blackness is on display at all times, whether you're talking about in Washington, D.C. or Hollywood, California. Our Blackness is always up for debate. And that's the thing about it. That now we're at this point, and it might be a good point, it might not be a good point, that when there's somebody from our community does something and it goes well, it's a reflection of us. But when somebody from our community does something and is not received well, it's also a reflection of us. I don't know, Ashley, if we can get around that.
I mean, as you know, in our community, as members of the Black community, we have an understanding that we're not all the same. And that there's not one Black person on this earth that carries the rest of us. That we all think differently, we come from different backgrounds, all that good stuff. But as it pertains to other races, that perspective does play a role, unfortunately. But when it comes to something as simple as what DuBose did, there is no reason for the critics to even come out in the way that they did. It's just like, that woman was out there, she made this song rap thing and she was having fun. Yes, it wasn't perfect. No, she's not some Grammy Award winning rapper, but she was having fun and doing what she thought was best in the moment. And I think that needs to be recognized, that she has the courage to even get out there and do something that she usually doesn't do, to pay homage to sisters that look like her and sisters who don't look like her, to respect their craft and respect the work that they have done in the industry. And so it's just unfortunate. But I do hope she rises above this. I do hope she, for her sake, gets back on social media and kind of knocks the haters away and continues to live her best life. But it's just unfortunate that we live in a time where the critics are just loud, so loud that they really are hurting celebrities like her. They're hurting her mental health. They're hurting her emotional health. Like, you don't know the things she could be going through in her personal life.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If this was a boost that she could have possibly just needed. She could have lost a loved one. She could be dealing with insecurity. She could be dealing with depression and a bunch of different things that, we don't have time to mention on this show right now. But you never know where a person is. I just wish more people were kind. And if you don't have anything nice to say, the advice that your parents would give you as a child, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But as people age, for some reason, they just feel like they can say whatever, that they're entitled to their opinion, no matter who it's going to hurt. And it's truly unfortunate. But I am hoping that DuBose comes back stronger than ever. It just does whatever she wants to do, no matter what other people are going to say about her.
Absolutely. I want to honor these two as we talk about this, Ariana DuBose, a talented Black woman. I wanted to show this picture because in spite of the viral moment of this, she did say some very true things in that little rap. Angela Bassett did the thing.
She did the thing.
Viola Davis is my woman king. Take a look at this, folks. This is the picture. Oh, I love
stunning.
I love this picture. Y'all want some Black love? That's like two dynamic women who have reshaped the conversation about Black womanhood, Blackness. Dynamic. And what we have between these two women, Ashley, Angela Bassett's been doing this for, I want to say 30 years.
For a long time.
Viola Davis has been doing this for 30 years, crew? Like, we probably got 60, 70 years of great talent just in that. What better way to end the conversation? Like, in spite of all, the joy of seeing these two sisters continue to represent at a very high level. And I mean, they just like fine wine, it gets better over time. You know what I mean, Ashley? Just to see them. It just brings a lot of joy to my heart. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Like that is a beautiful picture that came from BAFTA. That was from the awards night. And Angela Bassett, Viola Davis, two dynamic. I mean, just two powerful women in theater, film. Viola Davis got the EGOT. She's an EGOT now. She gets the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony. And so, what else can be said? That's Black excellence. I want to say, hey, Lise, let's show that picture one more time. I know we got to wrap up. I'm just excited about it. Look at that.
Black girl magic. They are stars in their own right.
Super stars. And they got so much love and respect. You can clearly see they got love and respect. No beef. No like, girl, I'm better than you. It's like we doing this thing together. We in this thing. This is like we ride together. We die together.
Hopefully not anytime soon, but yes.
No. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Big shout out to the queens. All right, Ashley, we truly appreciate you for checking in and continuing to bring us up to speed. We look forward to having more conversations with you over the next few weeks. I know you're working on a number of stories, so we'll love to, create a space and some time for you to talk about these stories. But we're good to see you again today.
Sounds good. Great seeing you too, Faraji.
All right, thank you. Ashley Banks, the Grio's Capitol Hill correspondent, checking in. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Thank my team. I thank my man Keenan Joel. I thank my sister Elise holding it down today and making sure that the show happens the way it's supposed to happen. My control room. Thank you. And of course, folks, I thank you. I can't thank you enough. My crew for tuning in. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure that you download the app for free on all your devices. Make sure you follow us on all social media. And of course, make sure you continue to show your support for the great work that we're doing. Also follow me on social media at Faraji on Twitter and The Real Faraji on IG. And so much more. We always doing something. So make sure that I see your face on my phone so that way we can connect and continue to build this community. All right, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, RMU. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow. We got my sister Suzette Speaks that's going to be joining us tomorrow. So we'll talk to her about a host of things. And I got another cultural conversation that is blowing up this weekend. Can't wait for the conversation tomorrow. So we'll have that conversation tomorrow right here on The Culture, only exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you soon. Peace.